Our meeting of the Community Center Advisory Committee, June 3rd at 2:30. And we're going to welcome our guests from HKS and turn it over to you.
Well, thank you. We're certainly very pleased to be here. Very exciting project, and we're very intensely interested in learning a little bit more about the project for you all, and naturally introducing our company and our firm and the personnel here at the table and our expertise. So once again, thank you. My name is Don Harrier with HKS Architects. And before I let everybody else introduce themselves, just want to tell you a little bit about our firm. We were in Palo Alto as HKS Hill Laser Studio, the hospitality studio. We've now combined with our San Francisco brothers and sisters up in San Francisco to form a 35-person firm. So some of the information that you've probably seen on the material submitted from us represents the Bryant Street address, but we're all one studio right now, operating for the most part on a commercial level, doing all sorts of great projects, both here locally as well as in San Francisco, and from our hospitality roots somewhat all over the world. So if there was any confusion as to where the RFP went and how we've responded, it's because we've come together as two studios now to be bigger and better than we ever were. So I'll introduce Crystal. She can tell a little bit about herself, and we'll just work on right down the line.
Okay, hello, I'm Crystal Bariscale. I'm an architect and a city planner. I'm Director of Urban Design at HKS on the West Coast here, and have spent, I hate to say it, almost 30 years in public master planning on both coasts. So it's a great pleasure to be here and work on your very special project here. I should note also on this project, I'd be the principal planner, but also the project manager for the team.
I'm Christine Reed from OCB, or Office of Cheryl Barton. I'm based in San Francisco. I'm a landscape architect and associate principal there. And for this project, I would be functioning as a project manager as well. For this one.
I'm Bob Glazer from HKS Hill Glazer. I have to apologize for my hat, but I'm probably wearing a hat now because I never used to wear a hat, and I had to have several biopsies, and my head looks like a checkerboard. So
don't talk to me about that.
so I apologize for the hat, but it's much better with the hat on, believe me.
It's kind of, adding to our casual environment.
Thank you. That's not too bad. So as Don said, we were in Palo Alto for many, many years. I've actually spent quite a bit of time on the site over at your planning department, having done about 6 houses here in Atherton. And I must say this is a very friendly city for development, very friendly. Having worked in lots of cities around here, including Palo Alto and other cities, this is a wonderful city to work in. So, again, I spent quite a bit of time on the site, and I'll be working with our team on the architecture and the design.
So again, let me just maybe dive into a little bit about our firm in a very basic overview. As the slide says, our markets are pretty wide and varied in terms of the workplace effort that we do, studying tenant improvement and so forth, hospitality, corporate office, mixed-use environments, residential, multifamily, and then sports and entertainment. HKS, as you may or may not know, out of our Dallas office, designed the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. So a bit of a rock star status for them. We go from big to very boutique, very hands-on services. And as I say, we do architecture, urban planning, and you can read the rest. We're very much a company and a firm that's committed to sustainability. We have a few projects to show you that represent that commitment. And we're, as I say, once again, very excited to be here. As an overview for our presentation, we want to start at a macro level, talk about our expertise. I know that you've all probably had an opportunity to read the RFP that we submitted. It has the many consultants that we plan to bring to bear for this project, experts in their field. The commitment level is solid. We've worked with them in the past. From that, we want to maybe get down a little bit closer on a micro level to talk about your project specifically, what we bring to the table as a group of professionals here that might be a little bit more unique from what you've heard previously, and then open it up to some questions and see if we can understand a little bit more your goals and objectives and how our experience can help you obtain that vision that you have for your town.
So OCB is a landscape architecture firm based in San Francisco. We've been working predominantly in the Bay Area for 19 years now. We work nationally, but most of our projects are here. We work for a number of municipalities, such as San Francisco and San Jose, the town of Orinda, as well as campuses, both academic and medical and corporate. We have lots of institutional and corporate clients. So in that way, I feel that we're bringing a lot to the table in terms of we work on a range of scales and project types, from master planning down to site-specific design for construction. So we really like to bring a vision, a sort of holistic vision to the sites that we design, looking contextually at what makes that place unique, and then really catering our design to the specific place to really bring out those aspects of the place that are very authentic. So I think in that case, this site is a very unusual place for a civic center, but I think it shares a lot of commonalities with these types of spaces, both academic campuses, corporate campuses, where people come together, gather, and there's a real need for a range of outdoor spaces. So we can look at that in a little more detail with our projects.
Great. So I'm going to show you 3 of the planning projects of some of the ones that were in the proposal we sent you, to try to explain what makes lessons learned or like issues for your project here, even though they're perhaps at a larger scale. These are all 3 neighboring communities here on the peninsula. All asked for a complete reorganization of their site. Virtually no buildings were kept, new streets were made, the issues with multiple owners, landowners, and I'm proud to say the last 5 public master plan projects I've done have been unanimously approved, so I'm pretty pleased about that, and I think that has something to do with our public outreach and listening to the community. They're all very different projects, and that's because we looked at the authenticity of the place, as we spoke about in our project approach, and bring that out in the project. Spend a lot of time crafting what you want from your community to be, if you will, your brand, what you want to show as your front door. For Fremont, I presented this, it was not a community plan, which is like a specific plan, and design guidelines for 110 acres in there, what will be their new downtown. They've struggled for decades with no downtown. We've wanted a downtown. There are really 5 communities, and it's in fact a donut-shaped city. So the Civic Center, where you see the red trees up in the middle, are the brand new Civic Center. So appropriate to the scale of a master plan, we created new streets. This is Capitol Avenue. This is Capitol Avenue. This is brand new. What we did to create, for all my plans, implementation's important. It's not about creating a plan that goes on bookshelf. It's something we can go right away and implement. So costing, as well as practicalities of permitting, ownership issues, etc., are very carefully crafted. So the Civic Center would be brand new. It's placed in the center of the site as a way, as a map for them. They're trying to create a new downtown, a new retail space. So that's the magnet. And coordinated with that, I introduced a new art program with funding in it, so that suddenly there's a destination for this downtown. So this is something new they've had random artwork about, but here there was a real program on public sites and private sites and programming for that. This was unanimously approved I presented to City Council last year, and now they're already in phase 1 already, and the first developer is very excited. The first few blocks is by TMG. What I want to say that's similar to this is they were desperate for a new heart to their city, and that was their vision and goal, and we tried very hard, and it's hard to see from this bird's eye, but I had other renderings, but the brevity of our presentation is such. I just want to say that we tried to bring them a new heart to their downtown, and they've accepted it so much. Their energy is pushing forward despite the economy and getting it implemented. Another project is Bay Meadows Phase 2. Wilson Meany Sullivan was our client, working with the city on the specifics of the 5 commercial blocks that you see there along the Caltrans station. So like you, there were concerns about the high-speed rail. How would the rails be? At that time, there were multiple iterations of whether the rails would be raised or widened, etc. So not to stop our work and implementation, it took every alignment configuration that was known at the time and worked them into the plan so that we could build, and that's really a 20-foot alley between their property and our buildings. These new Class A office buildings that could be seen as a campus or individual buildings implemented. It was fully approved. Everyone from the Sierra to the labor unions were in support of this and did full working drawings on 3 of them. When I was at this was at another firm, not at HKS, but every species of tree and every pedestrian experience from their home walking to the train station was very carefully orchestrated. So the cafe where you get your coffee and that it was safe and secure till you get to that train platform was carefully integrated. There was some civic center area, it wasn't the city hall, but there was a little downtown focal point for that new development. And then lastly, probably know SSRI, this was filed this past year, 1.5 million square feet, thousands of heritage trees. So what it has in common here is we did a very specific heritage plan for this site. And because it's a random conglomeration, like you, of disorganization of fits and starts of building development on the site, this is a clean slate. So the phasing was critical because the infrastructure as well had to be reorganized. And the heritage trees had to be blended in with that. You'll see a running through of the site, and that partly has to do with we were trying to go to net zero and looking at the climate and using as much natural cooling for these buildings, as well as the stormwater, which you will hit on this site as well, where the new stormwater regulations have quite a demand and probably take about 4% of your site once you get moving forward on this master plan. So this was careful because it drains to the San Francisco Creek, if I pronounced it correctly. But this is just one train stop down from you. And we did a very careful organization of the parking. And we came and went and did a unusual way to approach parking to reduce that asphalt and the high cost of creating parking spaces that the town liked.
Can I just ask, is the entrance off of Ravenswood there? Is that what it is?
This is, yeah, on top
At the
is
top.
Ravenswood and the side is Middlefield. And what, right now they have this miserable service entrance there, the chain link on Ravenswood. But they have a lot of very high security research projects and nighttime deliveries. And what we did, because most of it comes off Middlefield from the highway, we moved it off to the corner of Middlefield there, so as not to make less traffic turns on that difficult intersection over there by the high school, and to create a more direct and more secure route to where the goods were supplied and distributed. So there's probably 3-4 levels of security on this plan, and the idea was to get rid of the chain link fence. You don't need that, and use other ways to create a safe environment and let the town across the city hall is across the street on the one side, and so they would be able to use overflow parking on some of that property because of the way we organize the traffic circulation. So they can fence it off or let it be used as well.
I hope you've been over here. This is the Rosewood over on Sand Hill. And if you know our projects, you know they all look completely different. This was done by the same design team who also did the shutters in Santa Monica and Ritz-Carlton Half Moon Bay. So again, all of our projects look completely different. We're very, very proud of that. Here, Stanford asked us to work with the architecture of Sand Hill Road, and we did that by becoming inspired by the roof forms and the other materials that are already in use on Sand Hill Road. If you know this site, you know that there are a series of outdoor spaces, and in fact, like your site, we believe the outdoor spaces will be just as important as the indoor spaces. This was a 4-year labor of love. The Santa Barbara Biltmore, this was done with Four Seasons. We've done many projects with Four Seasons, and this is very similar, we believe, to the scale of what you're talking about here, as well as the style. Of course, you have this wonderful building, and we'd like to use that as inspiration for all your future buildings here on the site. In many ways, this, we think, could be like your project in that it has courtyards, 1- and 2-story buildings, beautiful Spanish tile roofs, and again, we think a project that could be appropriate inspiration for your site here.
One of the interesting things too about this project is that there are many different decentralized functions. In other words, the spa might be in one location, the meeting space might be in another, reception, conference areas, all that has to be tied together. And much like your project, where you do have decentralized needs and mixed use needs, so do many of these hotels that we design. So they're all integrated by landscape, outdoor courtyards, and brought together to act as one. So from a master planning standpoint, you may look at us as hotel guys and say, well, what do you know about what we're doing? Well, you absolutely know a lot, because you're taking many, many different program uses and making it all cohesive and creating that sense and experience for the guests and visitors.
That's a good point. In fact, this building obviously has offices, it has a library, it has conference space. So as Don said, many of the same functions that you're talking about here can be found within this resort plan. This is nearby in Portola Valley, and we're showing you this just to show you our LEED experience. This is was, maybe still is, the highest LEED rating house in our country, the United States. It's a LEED Platinum house, and we worked on this over a period of 5 years with 2 venture capitalists who wanted to showcase their technology in this house. Down south of Santa Barbara in San Diego is Estancia. This was done for UC San Diego, and it was a site right across the street from UC San Diego by the Salk Institute. And again, much like the Santa Barbara Biltmore, it has a series of courtyards, lots of outdoor spaces, and very similar style to what we see might happen here.
So in the interest of time, I'm going to touch briefly on 4 of our projects. I think I would reiterate that our firm as well, no 2 projects of ours are alike either. And I think one of the reasons for that is that we take the cues of the context, the existing site, to really define our response to particular places. So each one really takes on a character that's unique and really appropriate, highlights what's already there, or in cases where there's not much authentic qualities in place, we create a place that feels like it's always been there. That's sort of the goal. This is a project at Cavallo Point, Fort Baker, and it's a much larger site than yours. It was actually 30 acres, project for the National Park Service. But some of the similarities where we approached the site from a master planning perspective was a very long-run project. There were a lot of intricate issues related to the historic buildings, siting new buildings in a way that really respected the historic buildings and didn't take away from these incredible views and the kind of formation, this sort of horseshoe-shaped formation that was created around the The other component to this is existing trees. Creating a master plan that both preserved and enhanced existing trees and really took a cue from the natural plant palette or the existing plant palette to create a very seasonally drought-tolerant, appropriate plant palette as part of the master planning. And if you have questions about our analysis approach, I have some additional slides that I could touch on to sort of show what that's like, what kind of analysis approach to site planning is. This is a project at Stanford. We've done a number of projects at Stanford in the last couple of years. This is the law school at Stanford University, and this was a very tight site. It's actually half the size of yours. But the key was to integrate landscape spaces intimately with the buildings. This image is of a courtyard on podium above structure. It was over the first floor of the law school. But the goal was really to create a living room for this building, an adjacent room that could be used both for education, for gathering, for lunch, all various kind of programmatic uses that the outdoors can be really great for in this climate. and really taking a cue from the site orientation to create microclimatic conditions for these exterior spaces that really enhance comfort. This was a master plan for the Huntington Education and Visitor Center in San Marino, and again, a larger site, but incorporating many similar issues of parking, vehicular and pedestrian circulation, new buildings, and really configuring these kinds of hybrid exterior spaces. This is both the main pedestrian walkway from the parking past the library, associated exhibition spaces, but really incorporating gardens and plaza spaces within that to really maximize usability for that place. And then finally, the Hewlett Foundation is actually the most appropriate in terms of scale to your own. It was 7 acres in size and incorporated parking, vehicular circulation, trails and pedestrian paths that really respected the existing oak trees. There were 25 heritage oaks on the site that we carefully configured all of the circulation and paving to keep every tree in place. It also incorporates sustainability to green infrastructure, this kind of stormwater infiltration in a way that's barely perceptible. I mean, that's our goal ultimately, is to incorporate sustainability in a way that is integrated wholly with the design of the site, and so that it, in a way, it enhances the site rather than detracts from the site. And so this is, sorry, that's the last image for this, but I have additional images of this as well if you have questions about how that might work.
So this concludes our quick presentation. I know we ran a little bit over, but I think hopefully you're able to discern and tell that the relationship and that we feel that we have with Christine and her firm and the integration of exterior and built architecture makes the place. And we're excited about the concept about what the heart of the town of Atherton can be, and bringing our resources to help you vision exactly what this wants to be. And so we open it up to questions, to anything that we haven't covered, or other discussion points that might be relevant to this.
We have a very eager committee member.
Okay.
Always the first one to have
You don't have
a
to.
question.
Somebody wants
No,
to.
but don't go ahead. Leave us on.
Well, I have 5 questions this time, okay? So
Oh,
I apologize.
fine. We need a little whiteboard to keep
One
track
for the
of
group
it.
and one for each of you, okay?
Short-term
I hope
memory
that's
doesn't
okay.
take
I think they
5
may cover a
questions.
broad area that may be helpful for all of you. So the first one is, I don't think we've heard anything from you guys on what you see are the challenges with this site, how you handle it. So that's number one. Number 2 is, and I'm guessing this is Crystal, but I could be wrong, who is the face for public outreach? Who is that person? Because that's really important, because that's a personality fit with the community. Don, my question for you is, you're a new guy, you're not in here, so we need to hear about you and what's your role.
Sure.
Okay. Oh, by the way, you guys all do great work. I mean, I don't know yours yet, but your portfolios are fabulous, right? You're great. But I don't get is how it all fits together totally. So, Crystal, I'm curious, is Cheryl going to be involved? Is it just you? You know, the work is fabulous, but who do we get? Okay. And then, Bob, how does a hotel fit in here? I mean, you're famous, right? Everybody knows Bob Glazer, Hill Glazer, right?
Yeah.
How does it fit in here? Like, how does the Civic Center become a hotel? So, what's your role in the process? So those are my 5.
So let me jump in real quickly if I can, just to maybe help organize all this. The switch in the proposal from Brendan Dunnigan to myself really occurred because I've assumed more of a managing role within the San Francisco office now that we've come together. So my role really is to be the shepherd of this group and to make sure that we are meeting timeframes and milestones and the service that you guys are expecting from us, certainly the deliverables, and providing the backup for these folks so that they have the resources as well. If we need to bring in more troops, as we said, we're a very large firm, we're 1,000 folks, but we're boutique in the nature of the way we work from San Francisco. So if we need to pull in some people from the outside, we'll do that for the benefit of this project. You have a bench that is better than the San Antonio Spurs. It's quite something. So that's going to be my role in making sure that we're representing you the way that you need and certainly expect from us. I think in terms of the face of the individuals that will be at public hearings, certainly at public outreach, will be these two primarily, and backed up and supported by Bob as it relates to architecture and so forth. And again, we pull in a great deal of resources from programming and.
Let me ask a specific question, because the proposal had, and I'm doing this a little bit from memory, I think your proposal didn't have public outreach, except for coming to city council meetings.
Well, we didn't highlight it as a, I didn't think it was actually such a overwhelming focus for your town, but let me assure you that, you know, as I mentioned earlier, that it's been something that I'm quite proud of my track record, as is Christine here. We want to work together because of this unique, our approach is perhaps a little unique from the other teams because we see a blending, true blending of the built and the landscape form together. And so we're going to work together as a team on that. We will both be there. As a PM, I'm the day-to-day contact person. I will be available. You know, anyone wants to get a hold of me, I'll be available. So I will take care of that. My approach to outreach is there's no ego there, you know, and everyone's voice needs to be heard. And sometimes there's folks that are way off, you know, onto their own world, that, you know, you can winnow that out pretty quickly, but I do believe everyone needs to be heard and somehow has something to say. This is your town and it needs to be reflected. So that outreach, if you look on the first phase, in fact, it says initiate community outreach. So our approach is that we would, from the outset, work with you, because we're not sure how, you know, what you feel comfortable too in terms of the committee and your internal administration, how you want to handle it. But we feel that everyone should be on board from the start, the get-go. And if we have this iterative process where the visioning session workshop is a public, the alternative concepts, the draft, and then the final, right, where everyone should be there to celebrate. Having people engaged through the whole process and aware of it, the whole town, brings people on board, and so they understand it and can gain, you know, a little, they feel ownership of it, and it's part of them, and that's how I see how we build consensus.
I might add to that, we've done a lot of public process work, because most of our work is public in some nature, or public-private combination. So we know that it's very important to make sure you define what it is you want from the community, what kind of input you need, and I think what we would do is look to you to help define the initial goals and objectives for the project, and then when we go to the community, it's really a kind of a structured approach process where we're really being strategic about not just opening the floodgates, but really kind of trying to hone the conversation in a particular direction, because we've had, you know, many issues on these kind of public park projects where everyone has their own agenda. I doubt that would be such an issue here, but you all would have a better sense of that than us, I would think. So.
Have some pretty opinionated people.
That would be a lot.
I don't want to miss the other questions that Steve had, because I think they're really important, but just to give a little bit of color to what you're addressing. We're really aware of the community, and there's a bunch of people in the community who are very well known and are very protective of their privacy, and they, you know, we're quite aware that we don't have really a city center, and this is an opportunity to have that. We are also very aware that people are not engaged in our civic community, you know, not only because we don't have a civic center, but there's more apathy, and people are happier, you know, in their public lives when they're at work or in a broader community than in Atherton. But we do see a real challenge and a real opportunity to use this process to reach out to the community. And we think that's going to have to probably be in small meetings within the small areas of the community, the neighborhoods and whatever. But that's going to be a really important part of this whole process.
That's great. Yeah, Yeah, unfortunately, there's so many new processes with public outreach, with technology and the surveys and et cetera, but not everyone is attuned to that digital world, so it's really important to catch everybody and still do the face-to-face. Great.
One last thing on the community outreach. Many of our projects, it seems like there are as many hours spent on designing as there are working with the community. I think I can think of the Ritz-Carlton Half Moon Bay, where I am sure we had over 100 meetings with the people in Half Moon Bay and the local politicians. And another example is the shutters in Santa Monica. That went on for almost 6 years, approval. So we're very used to doing that, and we see that as an integral part of our job, is to work with the community and sell the idea to the community.
Another question about Cheryl's.
Right, yeah, I can address that. So we are OCB, we've kind of deflected all the pressure from Cheryl being sort of the key spokesperson. It's been like that for quite a while, but we get that question a lot. And she is design principal, so she's certainly aware of everything that goes on in the office and has ultimate say on design decisions. But I would be the face-to-face and am for many projects in our office. In fact, all the Stanford projects, I've been lead designer and project manager for those projects, and I'm very used to working on these large-scale projects. We also have a larger office. It's not just me, so we have multiple range of skill sets within our office that we draw on for projects like this.
Any other,
Mr.
Dobby?
You know, I'm very impressed with some of the, I know some of the buildings just kind of around here, I'm very impressed with it. But at the moment, you know, we're interested in a master plan, which I have to believe is pretty small potatoes for you. You know, it's certainly nothing like some of the other projects that you've done, including the hotels and Half Moon Bay and things. And I think I would be concerned, can we really get your attention on this? Because, you know, as you say, it looks, in my mind, based on what you've done, that this is pretty small for your firm.
So we worked on over 6 houses here in your town, and obviously those are much smaller than what you're talking about here. So I think for us, it's not the size of the project, but the quality of the project. And I mean that sincerely. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how big it is. I think this is such an interesting project because you have an historic building here. We see a chance to make a public space that can become the heart of Atherton. Rick, to your point, I asked all 6 of my clients in Atherton if they knew about this, and they didn't. They didn't know anything about it.
Right.
They didn't know what I was talking about. And so I think that probably tells you right there's an opportunity here to bring the town together. But it's an opportunity to do that. But on the other hand, I think one reason so many people like to live here is the privacy. And I think that's what a lot of my clients like, is the privacy. So it's kind of it works both ways, but we're very interested in this, and it's not the size. And as you might know, it's not been a great past 5 years for architects, so.
You're looking for work,
I've
so.
got one follow-up question, which is, I've asked this before. You know, are you going to have monthly project reports to us, progress reports where everything is documented, what you've done, and meet with us so that if we decide to go in the wrong direction, we can tell you as early as possible? And also, if you feel there's going to be cost changes, not if you want to reduce the cost, but if you want to increase the costs, that you'll let us know ahead of time, because, you know, you're dealing with a council here who regularly changes their mind.
Well, like many of our projects,
We're in one accord.
yeah, many of our projects have, you know, a wide degree of stakeholders, and you know, the risk associated with developing anything is immense. And so the accountability that we employ at each project to representing our process, our setting agendas, working with you to make sure that we're doing the right things, reporting back to you. You know, the great thing about technology and WebEx, you know, if not everybody's able to get in the same room, we can certainly line up the technology aspects of things. The great design that we do, we're also understood as great project managers. And we see the project from its inception all the way to ribbon cutting and beyond. So we get there. We do that in a very careful and monitored process, and it is something that we're proud to do as well. And as part of our DNA is to make sure that we're taking care of our client each and every step.
So I have a question, if I can jump in at this point. So, we're dealing with initially the master plan of trying to take this existing site. We have a very rich community, but we only have two pieces of property. We have this piece of property, that's really our only property, okay? And then we have our beautiful park that is for playing fields. But, you know, to create a master plan for this, and then, you know, we get that approved, and then the architect selection will follow at some point. So just to be very clear about that. So we need to design a spot for our police department. Have you done, I guess this question would be for Crystal, in your urban planning, and have you integrated police departments, facilities with the town halls, with the administration, building department, public works, things like that?
I've done administration buildings, but for this master plan typically, like Fremont, we took an accounting of their existing spaces, which were, as usually in these places, scattered. Try to understand what changes would be for future growth or contraction or consolidation, and then put together a space planning program with necessary long-term, adjustments, up or down sometimes, for the future, and that's what we use for the master plan. That's in there. Right now, they're going through the next steps of putting together the pieces for RFP for that civic center. So, appropriate for this level of project, yes, directly have done that.
I brought a document that's got 25 pages worth of programming questions that we typically give clients, in this case, public entities, to begin to address every need known to mankind, whether there's a water dispenser, a copier, or conference space, and so forth. So we get into the nuts and bolts, as well as the overall kind of master planning visioning. The nuts and bolts is equally an important part of this that helps us then define how the master plan is going to be able, as Crystal said.
We're cognizant of, we've been through change management, where,
Is that,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I've got a question for you, John or Bob, I think, speaking of nuts and bolts, how much is this gonna cost? And where do you bring into the cost estimating?
the project overall?
You bet. Well, part of our process, again, is always putting together the best team. We have a cost estimator that we would initiate with some of these alternatives that we would end up producing. And one of our questions is we were thinking